The National Institutes of Health, also known as the NIH, they announced a new policy that ends the use of human fetal tissue in NIH-supported biomedical research. In particular, we're talking human fetal tissue from elective abortions. So what can we make of this development? Well, joining me now to discuss this is Dr. David Prentice. He's an internationally renowned expert in stem cell research and therapies. He's also president and founding board member of Science Alliance for Life and Technology, also known as SALT. Dr. Prentice, welcome to Washington Watch. It is our honor to have you with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Great to be with you to talk about some real truth.
A major development here. Why don't we start, first of all, if you can, just give us a little background, if you will, on human fetal tissue and how it's been used in research in the past.
Well, it's really got a sordid history, if you will. It's medieval research. What people have done is taken aborted baby body parts, parted these little babies out after they've been ripped out of the womb, tissues and organs, and then sold them, literally, to researchers for experiments. And this research, frankly, has been going on over 100 years, yet in all that time, not a single cure has happened in terms of their promises of what could happen to the research. So we've been kind of fighting this fight, and a lot of groups have, for years, decades. What we found was in the last Trump administration, after we talked about the science and the ethics of this kind of research, the Trump administration then actually cut back some of the research that was being done. Certainly on the NIH campus, they formed what's called an ethics advisory board to look at not the science, but the ethics of doing this type of research. And we rejected, frankly, almost all of those requests for funding. What we've heard from the other side is that there's no other way to do this research, that you're going to delay cures and treatments and so on, but it's patently false. This is research that has not delivered on anything but a grisly history of death.
Wow, very interesting. Well, I know these funds, the NIH funds, are still permitted for research involving HFT, as it's known as, obtained from miscarriage and stillbirth. Mm-hmm. But effective yesterday, these funds can no longer be used for HFTs from elective abortion. So can you explain the significance of this new announcement? It's a pretty big deal, isn't it?
It's a huge deal, and it's been a long time coming. It's very gratifying to see the Trump administration and this NIH cut off using any of that unethically obtained tissue. Again, this is after the abortion, parting out little babies that are dead and using their tissues and organs for research. In scientific research, you always talk about informed consent. Well, there's no way you can get consent to do this type of research. But the tissue that's obtained from miscarriages or stillbirths, these are babies that are already dead, and the parents said, maybe you can get some use of this tissue, but it's obtained ethically. You're not killing this young individual to get that tissue. And there are other alternatives as well for doing this kind of research, but to finally cut off this grisly type of practice of parting out aborted baby body parts and selling those parts for research, it's good to see that go away.
Man, it really is. This has been something that you and others have been fighting for a long time. Listen, speaking of science, while we have you here, could you tell us a little bit about your organization, something that you really brought in the world last year or so? But tell us a little bit about SALT.
Well, it's a small group of about 7 of us, mostly scientists, a couple of policy experts. We'd been working on not just fetal tissue and that type of research and trying to stop the grisly parts for years, but embryonic stem cells and cloning and talking about the good things like adult stem cells. We're very young, we might say at an embryonic stage of our organizational development, just a few months old. But we've come together to try and speak some truth into the culture, to educate in terms of not just the science, but the ethics of research. I mean, we're not against science. We're scientists ourselves. But we think it ought to be done ethically. It ought to be done to respect human life and human dignity. And so we finally got this group together. We're kind of the only voice in terms of scientists in this space right now that stands up for life, that stands up for ethical scientific practices. And frankly,
that's awesome.
It's the ethical ones that are the effective ones that really are helping people.
Less than a minute before I let you go, you brought it up. The left often says conservatives are anti-science. 30 seconds or so. How do you respond to that?
Well, it's patently false. We are scientists. We agree that science can produce some amazing innovations, treatments and therapies and new technologies. But it ought to be done to honor and respect and protect human life and human dignity. No human being should die for a research or experimental purpose. And so our point again is, as SALT,
right,
this science group, to season those debates and try and get the science and the ethics together.
Dr. David Prentice, President and Founding Board Member of SALT, Science Alliance for Life and Technology, thank you so much for the incredible work you're doing. Thank you for joining us on Washington Watch.